Welcome back to this edition of America Talks Live. As we told you in the last segment, the protests at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq have ended. Now, officials said that the protesters and their tents have been dismantled and the Iraqi security forces have secured the perimeter. These demonstrations have been going on for the last couple of days, but there were no reported deaths. Iran can just kind of, we have a little bit of time to wrap this up, and this issue with what's kind of led to before, which is all these different things that are going on in the Middle East, that are going on in London, where we see all these different attacks, where we have certain attacks inside the United States are definitely always threats, that we have never actually, our government has never named the true enemy. And when I look at this, I fearfully reflect back on the 60 years or so that North Korea has been allowed to grow and grow and grow, and nobody did anything about them. They just pass it on to the next administration. And now we have a complete and utter lunatic with nuclear weapons. How do you think it would change things if the Trump administration finally sat back and said, listen, fundamental Islam, that is where this is coming from. That's who these, when we look at Al-Qaeda, we look at ISIS, they practice the fundamentals of Islam. And the answer for this lies in Islam, not necessarily from our military strength.
Yeah, and part of the problem is, and also is the case with North Korea there, President Trump inherited what he inherited, and we can go back and talk about how these things got to this point all day long, and this be a fascinating conversation, I'm sure. But he has to deal with what he has right now, and that means the pros and the cons, the strengths and the weaknesses, and all that. And I think probably more than any president, maybe since Bush, I mean, he certainly has, periodically called it, radical Islam. I don't think he's shied away too much from that. But we got to be honest. The real problem is it's not just Islam itself. It's a shred of the religion that's being used by some to further their violent ideology. Because really, it's an ideology more than religion. Because I have a number of really nice Muslim friends that are just wonderful people, and and it truly is act that out in their life that they're about peace. But there are others who make it sound whatever they want to sound so that they can use it to further their violent, murderous ideologies. And that's what we have to distinguish between. And then we have to be very, very vigilant to do that. And I think, actually, I guess I'm a bit of an outlier on this. I think that the cooperation between our federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies and our cooperation with other intelligence services around the world, I think has been very successful at preventing any future 9/11s. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant that we need to redeploy our troops elsewhere from where they're on the ground there, because they don't help us there. But these things do very much help us, and that's what keeps us safe, no matter where the terrorist threat may arise from.
Well, I think, here's one of the other things. By looking at this and studying the 18, 19 years that and even actually studying the way we did things before, and having been in the military and also in federal law enforcement, one thing that we just do not do. Now, we did it, the FBI did it when they faced the mob. But and that's called forward thinking. But it doesn't seem like the strategic planners, when it comes to fighting Islam, that they do not forward think. And so everything is almost 100% reactive. And I don't think there's a way we can win a war if it's just constantly reactive.
Yeah, but we just have to understand and accept that because we can't defeat an ideology with either law enforcement or military power, we have to defend ourselves, and we just have to improve that system as best we can. Because really, honestly, there's no other way. I mean, we can't go and, as Trump, hypothetically talked about in Afghanistan, we can't go and wipe out 10 million people in a certain area so that we eliminate everything in there. Obviously, that he was said that tongue in cheek, of course. But we can't do that. And he hit a real point there. So what we have to do is we have to defend ourselves where we can. And I think there are some proactive steps where we continue to work with good, wholesome Islamic leaders so that they can work on the other end of this and try to get at, the poisonous part of their own followers and people who are twisting their ideology. They have to be the ones that I think they hit it from the other side. But we're ironclad in our defense, and we're not going to rely on anybody for our defense, but it would help if they would get some of it from the other side.
Well, I know one thing. We can definitely look at the past 18 years since 9/11 happened, and we can definitely say that it's the way we're fighting this is not working. Tactically, we've done some amazing things. There's been some incredible hits, but overall, strategically, we really are not much better off, if at all, than what we were 2001.
Yeah, and listen, again, I may be an outlier here, but this is something I've been a long time advocate of, is that these forever wars that we keep talking about wanting to end, they have a negative consequence. And when you permanently station and are conducting combat operations, on the soil in Afghanistan and in Syria and in Yemen and in other parts in Africa, et cetera, and that's all you ever do is just kill people all the time. Well, we know that it's impossible to kill all the terrorists, but every time we do, and every time we accidentally blow up a hospital like we did in Kunduz, or hit a wedding party, which we've done several times, unfortunately, over the years in Afghanistan, those just continue to keep it perpetuating. If we get our troops out of those places, at the very least, we stop creating additional people who want to be enemies of us, and then we can focus more on that global ISR strike capability, and we'll be a lot safer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Ultimately, here's the bottom line of this entire thing. If Islam wanted to stop what's happening within Islam, they could do it in a snap. They just have to come back, think outside the box. That's the way you win wars, and we would assist them, and that's basically is what hasn't happened. But I'm going to have to cut it there. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel, I can't thank you enough for coming back on here and helping out with this and shedding some light on this. And it's interesting how we're all spot on in the way we think, but when it comes to the big generals, they just don't see it.
Yeah, we need to move, we need to make some inroads in that too.
Yeah, I know. God bless you on that one. Hey, listen, thank you. Have a great New Year.
Same to you. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Coming up, I'll give you my take on political unrest and division in this country when America Talks Live continues right after the break.